because I'm in the air right now, although I shouldn't be. This should be attached to my character, and yet it isn't. I think at this point, it's no real surprise that games often hide things from players, right? Like, for example, like, hiding something off screen, like maybe, let's say you have some sort of house, right? And because I've seen this happen many times in Roblox games, specifically for whatever reason, is that they just like tend to clip things like, through like the floor or something, where obviously not like this because this is quite unrealistic. But then you get a thing where it's like, have you ever had a thing where like you fall through the map and then you look up and you just see a bunch of things like clipping through, right? I've had that like many times, honestly. And when you're younger, you don't quite really think about stuff like that, right? But games often do hide things from players. And like I said, this isn't really anything new to the average person. However, what about specifically when a game is in first person? I mean, I have a mode here that says lock first person, right? So if I do end up playing the game right now, some things are already happening, right? So I'll explain some of these in a bit. But yeah, so I can't zoom in or zoom out. And as you may notice, I have a view model with what is presumed to be the head and the hands kind of, having some shadows. But, many games on Roblox are first person, right? I mean, obviously Arsenal, like other FPS games, or maybe some like story games or like horror games where you don't want the camera to just be zoomed out because then that would just kind of ruin the point of the game. And instead you want the player to have like this nice, almost like enclosed experience where all that they can see is just what's on the screen. However, this also then lets you as the developer modify a lot of stuff, right? That you typically either wouldn't be able to do before, or maybe, it just wouldn't really make sense to do it in like a game where people can go third person. So, what are some of these things? Are they like something I need to really know about? Like, is this something that is like horrible or whatever? So, all of this will be answered in this video. Now, what you're looking at right now is a view model, and that's actually the very first thing that I want to get into. This is just a little question, but how do you think view models actually work? Like, do you think this is like the player's actual model, right? Because I mean, like, are these hands like actually part of my player that other people can see? Because if I switch to something like the server, ignore the little outfit glitch there, you'll see that I actually don't really have that. I'm just a regular avatar. And funnily enough, you see my shadow, right? But here, you don't have any of that. You don't even see the avatar shadow. You don't even see my avatar at all. You simply see this little head thing and my two hands. So this is the first thing we're getting into, the view model. I'm actually gonna outright show you this right now. This is what this is. This is the view model, right? This is why you see this little head thing, you see the hands. This isn't my head. This is this white cube. And actually, as a matter of fact, if I were to go to my settings here, and if I were to make it so that my camera can be zoomed out, we would see this, which of course is a little not necessarily like you would expect a view model to act, because I'm in the air right now, although I shouldn't be. This should be attached to my character, and yet it isn't. Now, this is pretty obvious stuff to most people, but I just wanted to get that out of the way because it's like, it's interesting how view models, how specifically making a script where something is attached to the camera could cause for such an interesting illusion when really all that you have is just this thing, right? But because you're locked to first person and you can't actually see your avatar, all you see is your view model. And this is especially true for when like it actually has like some sort of animation, and when that animation also applies to the characters. Like something like Arsenal, for example. The way that their view models work, and a lot of other games, is that they have a character, they have the view model, and then let's say if you click shoot on the gun, they update both the view model to, play the animation, and your character to other players. So you don't see your character, you only see your view model, but other players, they only see your character and not the view model, leading for this the cool little illusion where it's like, this view model is almost like part of your character, but it really isn't, because if you were to zoom out, this is what it would look like. Now, the next thing that I want to show you is, it's actually pretty interesting. It's sort of like a view model, but not in the way that you might expect. And it actually all has to do with sound. Right? So for example, let's actually go to the toolbox and let's find some sort of sound. Like, let's say, I don't know, right, waterfall. Sure. So we could hear the sound of a waterfall. Perfect. Amazing. Yeah, I hope you can hear that. So then we could import that into sound service. We now have this waterfall background thing. And let's say if I have it playing and I have it looped like this, then the moment I join the game, there we go, right? It's a bit loud. So I'm gonna turn that slightly down. But now we're just going to hear the water, or whatever sound we're playing, wherever we are, no matter which direction we're looking into. Here is the problem. You can't really have surround sound like this. Hopefully you know what surround sound means. It's basically like, pan sound. It's like sound on your right ear or your left ear, and then it's like surround means like there's more almost like speakers around you. Like, it's hard to explain. But the problem is you can't really do this, and that's kind of weird. If anyone has ever made music, which I do, I sometimes occasionally produce music, or something like I have dealt with like audio editing software in general, and we will know that it's pretty much as stable to just have an ability to change the panning of the sound. Like, this must just be a thing that you can just do always, right? Like, for example, if you're using some audio editor and you're not able to pan the sound from right ear to left ear or to keep it in the center, that would be considered a terrible application. Like, imagine if I was unable to change the volume of the sound. It'd be like, why? Like, that's horrible. Like, I didn't even know this was a thing, and yet Roblox has this. So you might be wondering why exactly this happens. Well, because you can actually add sounds to parts. So for example, if I were to add the sound into the spawn location, it would then play from the spawn location. As in, if I were to walk away, it gets quieter. If I were to walk closer, it gets louder. And if I were to spin, so this is important, hear that? That's when it turns into surround sound. That's when the audio like is actually playing correctly, right? Here it's in my left ear, here it's my right ear, here it's behind me, and here it is in front of me, right? Now, in those cases, it would make sense for the audio to not really have a panning mode, right? Because how are you going to pan a sound that's already tied to a part, right? But of course, sometimes you just have sounds that, you know, are just supposed to be playing just for the player, right? Like, you know, they're not playing from a specific part or anything like that. So then what if you wanted a game to have surround sound, but, you know, you didn't want it to be specifically tied to some part of the map, right? Like, you actually wanted it to, the sound is almost like circling around the player. Like, maybe you want to make for like some cool trippy effect. How do you achieve that? Well, this is why I said that that's where it applies to view models. So for example, what if I were to take this view model, right? And, you know, we still have something like this, but then with these arms, what if I, let's say, take them and I turn them into these little cube things like so? There we go. And so let's say I take them both, right? And I move them up like so. I assume you're already guessing what my next thing is going to be, but it is effectively creating your own surround sound system, if you could even really call it that. Now, of course, here you would make all parts invisible, right? And then you would just simply take this, you know, waterfall, background sound, whatever, and then you would just make it play in one of these view models, right? Actually, as a matter of fact, what you probably would do is you would just keep the sound somewhere here, right? You would make it so that it doesn't play, right? So it's not playing yet. You would then take this view model, which I could just call sound view or surround sound or like something like that, right? Put it into replicated first, and then in this script, which is the one which, you know, is responsible for the view model being connected to the camera, I can say local sound view is equal to game, replicated first, wait for child, sound view model, clone, and then over here we can do the same thing where we say sound view.parent is workspace, and then sound view set primary part C-frame equal to the C-frame of the camera. And the C-frame is like position and stuff like that. But then here, of course, we want to take this sound, right? So I want to say local sound is equal to game, sound service, wait for child, waterfall, whatever, clone, and then we say, okay, sound.parent is equal to sound view, wait for child, whatever, right arm, or, you know, something like that. And just in case you're wondering why I'm doing this through a script and why I didn't just place the sound into the view model, which I'm just now realizing I need to play the sound as well. Sound lay. There we go. Or maybe actually after this. There we go, sound play. The reason why I'm doing this in a script and not, you know, just like adding it here is because if I add it, then other players would hear it. Right? Now, this would not be the case if you make the view model locally, which I'm actually just now realizing is exactly what we're doing, so never mind. What I just said was illogical, but certain games might have this thing handled on the server where they actually spawn this sound view model because it's invisible, right? So no one is going to see it. Where they spawn this sound view model on the server, as in other people can see it, but then obviously if you do that, then other people will hear what you're supposed to be hearing as a player, right? So, you know, that's just a little thing. Sorry if that was like some confusing little statement. But I did everything correctly, so that's good. So if I do it like this then, and then if I play the game, do you hear that? It's on the right ear now. You know, I hope you have headphones for this, because if you don't, then it kind of doesn't make any real sense, right? But listen to that. That's pretty cool, right? Boom, boom. And again, another cool thing as well is you could even do a thing where you could set up a system where this sound goes from this ear to that ear, right? So I can maybe even do something where I don't want to get too much into like some deep coding thing over here, but I could even do a thing where I'll say like while pass.wait 3 seconds, so every 3 seconds, I'll just make a variable called right ear is equal to true, and then here it's going to be in the right ear, and then I'll say if right ear, then else. So then if right ear, then we want to set it to be the left ear. So I'll say sound.parent is equal to left arm, whatever. Here it's going to be right arm. And then after this, we say right ear is equal to not right ear. So we just toggle this thing, right? So then or maybe like we can even do the like 1 second. It's going to be a bit weird, but you can have something like this. That's pretty weird. Like, I don't know. And again, the cool thing too here is that if I switch to the server, right? Yeah, see? We don't even see anything. We don't hear anything, right? So that's great. Like, other players will not even know that we have this. But that's pretty cool. Left ear, right ear, left ear, right ear. I'm even wondering, actually, this isn't even part of the video, but if I make this like a bit faster. Okay, this might be a bit uncomfortable, but I mean, let's see. Ugh, yeah, I don't know. There's something about a sound just panning instant, like fully 100% left and right that kind of messes with at least my brain. I don't know if it does the same thing for you, but this is how, if you've ever played a game which had some sort of surround sound, some sort of panning, this is how they did this. And I know 100% this is how they did this because you literally cannot do this any other way. Maybe there's some highly advanced system which might do things slightly differently, but when it comes down to it, unfortunately, Roblox just doesn't have an option to pan sound for, again, whatever reason. It really shouldn't be that difficult. Yeah, people have to make these fake view models and then attach the sound to those. And then, God forbid, they want to have the thing animate or like rotate around the player. That's even like more work, right? All just to have sound playing in one ear. It's kind of stupid, but you know, next time you see that in a game, just know that the developer actually put some damn work into that. And last but not least, this is actually one which interests me a lot more than these, you know, previous two. And I'll just, you know what I'll do? I'll delete the sound view model if you don't mind, because, you know, look, I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of having waterfall noises in my right ear specifically. So I'll just remove that from the code. But as I was playing the game, you might have noticed many times that it's printing something. Oh, it just threw me an error. But you might have noticed how it's printing something, right? And specifically it's printing false. But now it's printing true. What does this mean? Can you take an educated guess right now? Can you figure this one out? And some of you might have read the name of the script already. But this effectively is a thing which every single frame checks if I'm looking at something. Or not even looking at, just have it in my screen, specifically the spawn position, right? Now, looking is slightly a rough term because it's like, it only checks for the middle of the part. So if the middle isn't looked at, then it prints, like it's saying false, even though it's obviously on our screen, right? And here it's true. Yeah, here it might print false, but it's like, yeah, I can see it, right? So it's like, this is very quick code that I wrote. And you know, in a real game, you'd have code that's like, you know, like longer and a bit more sophisticated, which ensures that like, you know, if I'm seeing even a tiny bit of the spawn location, maybe a corner, then like it still knows that I'm looking at it. But that's only really an issue for like big parts, right? This is the third thing that I'm going to talk about in this video, and it's simply hiding things from the player when they stop looking away from them. Right now, the truth is, like, Roblox actually does this by default, and initially I remember I used to have these weird errors in certain games. I've worked on certain games where the player would be like teleported super far away, and then certain local scripts would just stop working. Like, for example, right, let's say if I have a script in starter character script, which just says, okay, game, run service, render step, connect function. It just makes a variable. It says local thing is equal to workspace, wait for child, spawn, location. Perfect, right? Then what I'll do is I'll make a base plate, just like so. I'll set the position to be like 10,000 or something, right? So the base plate is like pretty damn far. It's like way over there, right? And so then what if I take the local script and I say, okay, good. And then we're gonna wait, let's say 5 seconds. And we are going to then teleport ourselves, script.parent, because it's a character script, script.parent dot humanoid root part dot cframe is equal to cframe dot new 0, and then we'll do 10,000, or actually 10,010, just to spawn the player above the base plate, 0. So this way, here's what's gonna happen. Yeah, it's gonna just print something. So it's not throwing us an error, right? Now I teleported up here, and you know, let's walk around for a little bit. Let's try some things out. We can't even really do anything. See that? Infinite yield possible on workspace, wait for child spawn location. And when I check the workspace, there is no spawn location. As a matter of fact, there's only one base plate, right? But then I go to the server and it's still here. So how can it say, oh yeah, infinite yield possible when it's here. I see the spawn location, and I see 2 base plates. So what happened here? And again, this is the default Roblox like thing that it does, which is like when you're far away from something, it doesn't really consider if you're looking at something, not as far as I'm aware. It might have like some systems in place for that, but just when you're really far away from something, there's a certain render distance where it just stops being like rendered. Like the game literally stops seeing it as an object and it stops updating everything about it. And then like if you come back, then it like brings it back, right? So it's not like it disappears forever, but Roblox does have some sort of default version of this. But again, like I said, not all games do. Or to be more specific, this is basically as far as Roblox is willing to go, right? They don't really care that much about other performance optimizing things. Like for example, you know, sometimes you play a game and it says like, oh, select your device, and it's like, you know, mobile graphics or PC graphics. Have you ever wondered what that actually does? If you're smart, you always pick PC graphics, because why the hell would you not, right? But like, have you ever wondered what that actually does? Like, does Roblox just have a low graphic mode that developers could just toggle via scripts? Well, kind of, but also kind of not. So let me actually show you how I would do this as a developer. So let's say I make this part, right? I'll have it non-collidable, non-query, can't touch, but I'll make it anchored, I'll make it invisible, and inside of this thing, I'm gonna add sparkles, just like that. Nice. We have sparkles, right? I can enable them, I can disable them. Perfect. Okay. Now, you might probably guess that if you have a bunch of these like little things playing over here, it might not be like a big deal, right? Like what I'll do is I'll make a folder for it. So I'll say folder, and I'll just put the part inside of here. Might not be a big deal to just have this, but like what if you have a bunch of sparkles over here? And then what if you have more here, and then some more here, and then some more here, and then over here, right? And then, I don't know, what if you take all of them and then you duplicate them again and you like twist them over here, and it's like, whoa, and then it's like, now you have sparkles over here, now over here, and then, I don't know, you like, see, you already have so much parts, right? What if I move it over here, and some over here? Like, this would just get quite bad, right? And see, like, again, even my game is like, you can't really probably tell, but like, there's like slight dips in frame rate. Nothing too noticeable, but like, I can tell that, you know, it's like a little bit off. And again, if you're playing on like some low-end mobile device and you have a ton of these sparkle things, right, that would kind of suck. Right, especially like I said, again, if I just keep duplicating these, like, look at that. And actually see, Roblox seems to actually have some sort of limit on particles, right? Where like they kind of end up like disappearing after a while. Look at that. That's actually pretty cool. I actually didn't know that Roblox does this. But again, they seem to have like some sort of set number of particles. If you're playing on some mobile device, even if Roblox is, you know, doing its hardest to, you know, limit the number of particles, even this much could still potentially crash your phone, right? So then what do games do? How do some games go around that? Well, let's take this look at part script. What it does is it has the part to look at, which is currently the spawn location. What I'll do instead is I'll say workspace, wait for child, folder. Okay, then over here, what I'll do, over here it checks if it's on screen. So I'll explain what this is, because as a non-coder, or maybe even as a coder, I often see like dumb words. Like I remember when I used to watch tutorials when I was younger, when I didn't know much about coding, I would see these weird words and I'd be like, what does this mean? Like, what does select mean? Like, okay, I can understand is on screen. I can understand what the camera is. Okay, that's all fine. What is this? Well, effectively, when you run this function, cam world to viewport point, and you give it the position of something, it returns 2 values. So first of all, it returns something. I don't even know what it returns. But the second value that it gives you is a true or false, which is like, okay, it's true if this is like in your screen, and false if it isn't in your screen, right? So pretty simple. And so all the select does is it simply says, okay, if something is returning multiple values, then which value do we want to single out, right? If this returns 2 values, but I only want the second value, how do I do that? Well, this is how you do it. You say select, then you say the number of the value that you want, which in this case is the second one, and then you run the function, right? So this is why this will only return 1 thing and not 2 things, right? So that, again, little tutorial. I guess this video is already a tutorial, kind of, but whatever. So then, yeah, what I could do here is I could then do this, right? And I could basically say, I could loop through this folder, right? So I could say for IV in part 2, it's not even a part, get children, do, like so. And I could then basically say, okay, local is on screen, and then I could say V position, and V is going to be like the part inside of the folder. And here what I'll do is I'll say if is on screen, then I'm going to loop through the part itself. So I'll say for VV. I'm saying II because like we already used these. So I'm just being kind of lazy, just doubling down, right? In V get children do. And again, it's going to be sparkles, right? Or actually, no, I could just simply say V find first child, which is a sparkles, like so. And we're going to say enabled is equal to true, because if it's on screen, we want the sparkles visible, right? Else, I'll say no, we don't want them enabled, and yeah, that's effectively it, right? So this way, if I play the game, right, and, you know, we're playing first person, oh, look at that, right? But then if I look away, I mean, kind of weird because we can't see them, right? But if I look back really quickly, see that? Isn't that kind of cool? Like, look at that. That's pretty cool, right? And again, see, like, when I'm looking at all of this, it's like, it is a bit laggy, but then the moment I look away, it's fine. I don't know if you noticed this. To me, at least, there's a fairly noticeable improvement in FPS, as opposed to here, where it's like, yeah, just look at them. So many particles. I look away and it's all fine. That's pretty nice. And yeah, again, I feel like that's just the easiest way to showcase this, but games often do this with many things. For example, they might stop certain scripts from running if they're not at your screen, or maybe not even screen, maybe if they're far away enough from you, right? Certain games even have a thing where they straight up just remove the visibility, like they make certain parts just invisible. They turn off like physics or something, because obviously some games, they have so much stuff, right? And in order to maintain the illusion that this game is big and, you know, has a lot of stuff to do, because if it actually truly rendered the entire world, that would just crash the game very quickly. So that's what they do. This actually what Doors does as well, right? So Doors, it's why they have the monster where, like, if you go too far back, like, this thing like kills you, or not kills you, like it damages you and it brings you to, you know, the latest room. It's because when you open a new room, it pretty much makes it so that the previous couple of rooms just aren't rendered anymore, and the previous few rooms get deleted. And of course, for the players to not see that, that's why there's like a monster there, so that they basically forcibly get sent back. And I like how they did this. I like that they didn't just make the player teleport forward. I like that they actually made a monster that does this. I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's like I said, there's many ways of, you know, playing around with this as a developer. And as a player, sometimes you might notice things like that. When you look at something, it oddly almost begins again as opposed to continuing, and you might sometimes be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, you probably notice it, but you don't really pay all that much attention to it. Well, that's why it happens, right? So the next time you see weird particle things that you know, look like this, like that's pretty cool. I could like do something like this. That's why it happens, right? So I do hope you learned a lot from this video. I hope that now you can have more of an appreciation for Roblox developers. I'm gonna delete this. Damn, that's actually quite distracting. Do leave a comment, let me know what you thought. Of course, like, share, and subscribe. That's what all the YouTubers say. I will also say that I do have a $30 course. Again, everyone says that, right? But I have a 7-hour course. It's, I think, my best work pretty much ever. I really like it. So if you're a, you know, more of a beginner developer and you like my teaching style and you think that the way that I explain things is really nice, yeah, go check it out. There's a free preview. It's 50% off forever. So it used to be 60, now it's 30. So yeah, I do hope you check that out. And as always, we're back to basics. Thank you for watching.